Well, I don't know what I'm going to say now, and that's because this is how all these videos are done. And nothing in my videos is premeditated. I don't know what I'm going to say now. I have no subject matter that I've premeditated. Obviously I've decided to tell you about my filmmaking, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Every time I start a new project, I seem to get a new camera. Either lose my old camera or I feel like a new camera, and I buy a new camera, even find a new camera. I've even found cameras, and in this case I'm using a Sony RX10, and it's been quite a robust camera for this job. It's not that good. Its motion correction for camera shake is not as good as some cameras that I've had, mainly because it's got a very large Carl Zeiss lens which gives a very good picture, and so in this case I've chosen to have the good picture rather than the motion correction and all that kind of thing. And so there is quite a bit of motion in the picture, but you'll notice that on the telephoto shots especially, there's quite good definition, quite good detail, so the quality in that case is a little bit better than what you get from just an ordinary camera. And so it's a good quality camera, and as I say, my main criteria when I choose cameras is the lens. And a lot of my, most of the last cameras I've had have had Carl Zeiss lenses. I've noticed that these produce probably a 30 to 40% better image than any other lens makers. I did have an Olympus camera previously that I got some good results out of also. So they were also good, Japanese lens maker, very good too. So that's the equipment I'm using. As far as the video editing concerned, I am an avid collector of ThinkPads. IBM designed the ThinkPad as a special contribution to industrial design, and made quite a number of different models, an evolution of models if you like, and finally we realised that it wasn't making any money doing this, and so it sold its franchise to Lenovo. And Lenovo at first continued to make the designs that IBM had produced, and then changed the design according to its own requirements, obviously to make a profit. And so the later ThinkPads are not as good as the earlier ones, and you can see marked, what's the opposite, improvement, reduction in quality, if you like, and design suitability for purpose in the later models. And I had for some time used an i5 processor, Lenovo, it's called a T410. I have two of these which I did my previous video editing on, but I found these to be unsatisfying to use. The plastic of the case is too flimsy, and it doesn't feel the same in your hands. And so the only Lenovo ThinkPads that I use now are two models, the T400 and the W500. The W500 is my main computer. It's a dual core CPU, Core 2 Duo, with a high-end processor, 3 gigahertz I think, and it's got a separate graphics card, which does help a lot in video editing. It's got a discrete graphics card, and as I say, the T400, that is a Core 2 Duo. I've got one of those with a 9900 processor that's the fastest Core 2 Duo processor ever made. Well, not the fastest, it's a quad core one, of course, but it's as high speed as you can get. And so these are what I recommend, these Core 2 Duo machines, as the best of the ThinkPad range, and quite capable of dealing with video. They're a little slow at rendering, but you know, I can live with it. My renders at the moment are taking about an hour and a half, I suppose, something like that, and less time than the upload takes. So if the renders were faster, it wouldn't help me get the videos up to YouTube, because the uploads are twice as long as the renders. So I don't see any point really in increasing my computer rendering capability. Dual core is good at that, and the fast processor is important, and so these machines are good. And so I think the W500 I have is from 2009, something like this, 2009. So it's over 10 years old, and computers over the last 10 years have not increased in the same rate that they increased in previous generations. And so the latest processors are not super better, and there's many restrictions in the new hardware and software that I don't really want to get involved in. I want the freedom of what we had 10 years ago, and so I'm not going to get another computer. I'm never ever going to buy anything more than what I've got. I'm going to live with what I've got running Linux. I run Linux, my own version of Linux, Linux Jade, on my computers, and I'm very happy with Linux as an operating system, and you know, doesn't force you to register and hassle you with putting in fancy long codes and things like that just to get access to your own software. And so yeah, I'm happy with that. So this is a bit of a video about my techniques that I use to produce my videos, and if there was a better way of doing that, I would do it. I did try an Apple computer. I bought an Apple MacBook recently, and as I was going to try, see whether the Apple's any good, but I had so much trouble sorting the software out, loading the software, that in the end I installed Linux, my own version of Linux, on the Apple Mac, and it went great. And so I have a white Apple Mac running Linux, and it's so much better than what it was giving me on the Apple, the trouble Apple was giving me over registration and getting the thing installed and something, trying to protect their own interests rather than look after my interests. And the version of Linux I use is based on Linux Mint, who is a very great team of people dedicated to getting rid of this corporate rubbish and providing an operating system which is robust, friendly, and without all this nonsense in it. So I highly recommend the Mint team, Linux Mint, as a basis for any operating system that anybody would want to use. And I've been with Linux Mint now for 10 years, and I've always tried alternatives, and never found anything better on the market of Linux. I've tried all of them, even the Chinese ones I've tried. And the Chinese are well advanced. Their versions of Linux, based on Linux, their own operating systems based on Linux, are very great, but they are restricted, and they don't have the same freedom concerns that the free software movement has. And so I steered away from it. But I would have, if the Chinese operating system had been better, I would have used it, because it's necessary to support whoever's doing the best work in the computer industry. As far as I'm concerned, that's the Linux Mint team. They are the best in the world at any of this. Better than Apple, better than Microsoft, better than any of these people, better than Google, better than Facebook. Their nemesis. I'll leave it with that.